Atlanta stays crazy. Keisha Lance Bottoms takes a complete 180, and T.I. shows you what he really thinks about white people. All that and more right now. So Atlanta has gone crazy times 10.
Times 100.
Times 100.
Times 100.
Keisha Lance Bottoms has lost it. For those of you who don't know, Atlanta is completely devoid of cops right now because Keisha Lance Bottoms won't back you up if you do your job.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. This Rayshard Brooks thing, first of all, completely justified shoot.
I believe so too.
Obviously, nobody deserves to die for a DUI stop or anything like that, but he was violent. He was violent, and he shot a taser at the cop.
No, he wasn't violent. They're going to tell you he was peaceful. He was jovial.
Well, yeah, that's what the DA said. He was downright jovial.
For 43 minutes, he was an absolutely fantastic person. There's no reason why he needed to go there.
No, what he did was actually very, very cunning. What he did was he spent 41 minutes sizing these guys up, thinking, what point is he going to make a break for it? You know, who's more vulnerable? Who do I need to go after? Where's all their weapons on their belt? He was sizing these guys up, and they were talking about, would you mind taking a breathalyzer for me? And he's like, what's that? I don't know what a breathalyzer is. Acting all dumb. You're 27 years old and you don't know what a breathalyzer is. Plus, he's had a DUI before, so he knows what a breathalyzer is. So the whole time he was playing dumb. The whole thing was an act. And then when they went to put the cuffs on him, all hell breaks loose.
Oh, according to every media source, no, he was jovial still. So how did all three of them end up in the ground, fighting, punches being thrown, and him stealing a taser off an officer's belt? That's peaceful and jovial, and there's no reason for any kind of excessive force in that situation.
And one of the things they said that they didn't tell him that he was under arrest for DUI. And I would think after 25 minutes of, walk this line, count to 9, follow my finger, blow in this tube, I'm pretty sure he knew what he was being arrested for.
Yes.
So as soon as the cops came out, he started wrestling. Then all of a sudden, all of them were down on the ground. Brosnan got his head spiked on the ground,
Yes.
actually got a concussion from it. And then Rolf got hit twice in the face by Rayshard, whose arms are as big as a freaking Big Gulp at 7-Eleven. So
I just like watching the videos from several angles. I think, how is it not? He had their taser, running backwards, shooting it. Granted, the second shot had gone out, but we're not there. We're not officers. They are trained for this. The second shot goes out, and then he turns his back, and I don't know how it cannot be justified.
And that's my whole thing. He stole a taser. He shot it at him.
Yes.
So right there, that gives him clearance to use deadly force.
Well, yes, because is not a taser is considered a deadly weapon, correct?
Well, yeah,
just like a gun.
It's considered a deadly weapon, or actually, it's considered a firearm. So
then they're going to try and say if he actually would have stolen a gun and fired and missed, then they shouldn't have fired back.
No, you can't say that.
But that's essentially what they're saying. If it's considered a firearm, he shot that firearm at the police officers.
Right.
So are they saying then if that would have been a bullet instead of a taser coming at them, they still don't have the right to fire back?
Well, he shot the taser and the leaf actually went over his head.
Yes.
So he missed him. But in that split second that he fired it, he also then Rolf, shot at him 3 times. He missed him once and then he shot him twice.
Mm-hmm.
And then so they're saying, well, he shouldn't have shot it because that was the second shot on the taser, and Officer Rolf should have known that after the second shot was fired, he didn't have anything else to fire at him. But you can't Monday morning quarterback this. This is these split second decisions. We're not there. Keisha Lance Bottoms wasn't there. This whole thing about, well, just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do something. Well, it does mean, Keisha Lance Bottoms, that you have to back your people up when they follow the rules. You can't say, these are the rules, this is the rules we want you to follow, and then when you follow them, you say, well, those were the rules, but those are kind of stupid rules, so I don't know why you followed them. So, I don't really like this rule, so now you're going to go to jail.
Every state, including Georgia, has rules that lay out what is considered deadly force, what is a deadly weapon, how things are categorized, and the definition. The DA has changed his mind twice in a month on what the definition of a taser is. So, in one instance, it's a deadly weapon. Oh, but now this time it's not. You can't have it both ways. Yep. So, when this actually goes to court, I really want to see him backpedaling on how are you going to justify changing your definition of that same device, a taser. Either it is or it isn't. You can't have it both ways to justify the situation that you are trying to make happen and to make media happy. All on the same thing. It is just so completely wrong. These are people's lives at stake who did their job to the letter of the law. The law backs them up in this. I don't know how, when we watch the DA explaining the charges, how he is completely bastardizing and shaping them how he wants them, because he's redefining once again what that taser is when Georgia has it classified as a weapon.
Well, as a matter of fact, we've got footage of when he said on the previous press conference, I don't know, 5 minutes ago, it wasn't 5 minutes ago, whatever, a week ago, a couple of days ago, whatever it was, where he came out and he said, well, of course that taser is a deadly weapon. Roll that.
Second officer is Willie Sauls, and charged with aggravated assault of Ms. Pilgrim, and this is for pointing a taser at Mrs. Pilgrim. And as many of you all know, under Georgia law, a taser is considered as a deadly weapon under Georgia law.
So, you saw that.
Yes.
And now, what did Paul Howard say?
He said, even though Mr. Brooks was slightly impaired, his demeanor during this incident was almost jovial, Howard said. For 41 minutes and 17 seconds, he followed every instruction. He answered questions. He never displayed any aggressive behavior during the 41 minutes and 17 seconds. But what happened at 41 minutes and 18 seconds? Why is nobody talking about what happened at the 18-second mark from that point on?
Right.
It was incredibly aggressive behavior.
The whole press conference was everything that happened up until they tried to put the cuffs on, and then the next thing they wanted to talk about was what did they do after he was shot. Nothing about Rayshard Brooks getting aggressive or violent or stealing a taser or shooting a taser. None of that was in the press conference at all. It was all about what the cops did up to the time the cuffs came out, and what did the cops do after the shooting. Mm-hmm. And they're saying that Roth kicked the body, and they're saying that Brosnan stood on the guy's arm or whatever.
Shoulder.
I think he stood on his. I think he was standing on his arm because he didn't want him to move anymore, right? Just in case,
Yeah.
Maybe he missed. I don't know. I don't really know. But whatever it was, Paul Howard said, that's not a official police restraint procedure or whatever it is. So they're being charged for that. And then this kicking of the body thing. So if we've got 8 different videos of this whole entire interaction, why have we not seen the video of kicking the body?
Yeah, because I watched the Wendy's security footage.
Oh, yeah.
Well, cars are moving and it's just sitting and it's boring until you get to minute 28 or something on the into the video. Mm-hmm. So where's the rest of it that shows that? There's a still picture where there's somebody's leg pulled up. I don't know what's going on in that still.
Yeah, he said, here's the picture of him kicking him, and it's just a picture of his leg on, up in the air.
Up in the air.
He could have been stepping over him or tripping over him. I don't know what he was doing. You don't know what he's doing in that.
Where's that video?
That's my question. If we've got so many videos, we got all these videos of this incident, How come the only video that is not showing up is the one where they kick him or the one that they stand on his body?
And then I imagine if you, I don't know, just took a small percentage of every police officer and sheriff's deputy across this country and asked them, when they have somebody pulled over, how jovial they are, how they're talking, until that moment where they find out this is not going as planned. I'm not going to get a warning with this. I'm not going to get let go. I'm going to get a ticket. I'm going to get arrested. Now they're going to take my ID and they're going to go backwards and they're going to go back to their car and they're going to run it. And all hell breaks loose. Watch cops. It happens all the time. They're funny and they're goofing around until they realize their license is going to go through and they're going to find out they have an outstanding warrant. They're on parole and they're breaking parole. It's a third time offense. And if it sticks, they're going to jail this time. And they run, they flee, they get violent. It happens all the time. I bet you anything, 99% of the police force can tell you that has exactly happened to them before. Everything is great until that moment at 18 seconds. I just don't understand when things went right and they're actually doing their job. It's damned if you do and damned if you don't. And the city is suffering because blue flu is going to spread like wildfire. It is going to have a higher transmission rate than COVID did.
If I was a cop, I would not do anything. I would get in my uniform. I would clock in. I would go get in my car and just hang out for the whole shift. Not answer any calls, not do a thing. And then when my shift was over, go back, clock out, leave.
Yeah,
and that's what they're doing.
If I was
all six zones of Atlanta nobody's answering any calls. The only call that they're answering is a call of an officer down, and nobody's going to be down because nobody's answering calls.
It's sad. It is sad.
It's Keisha Lance Bottom's fault. She's the one that's in charge of the whole police force. Erica Brooks stepped down. Why did Erica Brooks step down? Because she's not going to put up with this crap. She knows that was a good shoot, and she was like, I'm not going to be with you in this. I'm out. I don't know that for sure. That's just my opinion, but I'm almost 90% sure that's what she did.
So what county is it that their chief actually stood up for the police officer with those 4 kids who had a BB gun in a store that looked like a real gun?
Oh, Clayton County.
Clayton County. He stood up for his officer.
Oh, yeah.
That was absolutely fantastic.
Yep.
Because that had potential to get blown way out of proportion again.
Yep.
And that had the potential to end badly for police force.
Yep, and we're going to get to that in just one second, but I do want to say this about this Rayshard Brooks case. This is political down to the core.
Yes, it is.
Because Paul Howard is up for re-election. He's got a runoff in November, and he's trying to show that he's tough on police so that his constituents in Atlanta are more likely to vote for him. So that's why he went hard on those police about the college students, where he said the taser was a deadly weapon. And then that's why he's going hard on this case, because he just wants to seem hard on the police because, that's what Black Lives Matter wants right now. Second thing is, Keisha Lance Bottoms is on the short list of who's going to be vice president, with Stacey Abrams, Keisha Lance Bottoms, Amy Klobuchar, people like that. And she's trying to show that she's hard on crime so that she can be Joe Biden's vice presidential pick.
Okay, be hard on crime, not on not crime.
This completely backfired on her. So now she's hard on the crime, but her city is completely without police now. So that's a campaign ad that writes itself.
Yeah, what were you watching earlier?
That is a campaign ad that writes itself. All Trump's campaign people have to do is say, and his vice presidential pick, she was not backing up her police in Atlanta, and Atlanta took a month off of policing, and crime rate went up or whatever. By then, whatever they can say, the crime rate went up by this many percent, or this many cops quit, or whatever. Coweta County was on WSB this morning.
Yes.
And saying, hey, we need 10 officers in Coweta County. If you don't like Atlanta, come to Coweta County. I was like, whoa, that is a slap in the face for Atlanta, because
they need it.
They do need it. The other thing was, when they called out with the blue flu last night and probably tonight as well. I don't know. I don't know how it went tonight, but we'll find out tomorrow. But they called to the county sheriff, and they were like, "Nah, we're not coming down there. If you're not going to back up your own people, you're not going to back up us. We're not coming down there. You're on your own."
And was it the old Fourth Ward where everything is just all hell break loose last night?
Yeah,
and
in
tonight?
Edgewood, cars for a mile at least, and all the residents are like, who's directing this?
Yeah.
Nobody's directing this. This is like some sort of block party that we didn't know about.
Yeah, it was just
and,
show up and wreak havoc?
Yeah, people are running into their places of business and doing whatever they want, and there's no cops in sight, nobody directing traffic, no security, there's nothing, because the cops are like, I'm done. I'm not going to do this. If I'm going to do my job, if I'm going to go to jail for doing my job, I'm not going to do my job anymore.
Yeah.
And I don't blame them.
No, it's a damned if you
I don't
do,
blame 'em.
damned if you don't. Because you can go completely backwards with this Brooks thing. What if that would have been a gun instead of a taser he took? And the cops would have like backed off because it was a public area and let him run with it. All over the news would have been about inept police officers letting a gun get stolen off of themselves in a tussle on the ground.
Right. And contrast that to what you were just talking about with what happened in Clayton County.
Yes.
Talk about what happened in Clayton County.
That, what were they, 13, 14-year-old boys walking through a convenience store.
They were in the parking lot.
In the convenience store, and the convenience store owner saw a weapon tucked in the back of one of the boys' pants.
Mm-hmm.
So as soon as they vacated, he called the police officer, and they were like walking back towards a park area, it looked like on the video, and officer approached them. He's thinking they're armed, so he has his gun drawn because he's been told they're armed. However, what position was that called in the ready?
The
Down in the ready or something. Don't remember what I was.
The alert ready position or something like that. The down ready position, something like that.
Yeah,
I can't remember.
And watching it, he questioned.
Anyway,
them.
it's when you're holding a gun on somebody, you got it like this.
Mm-hmm.
When you're ready to point it at somebody, you're holding it down like this.
Yes.
So he was holding it down like this, talking to the boys, and then. After he found out, they were like, we don't have any gun. He was like, all right, if there's no gun, it's no problem. So he had it in down
and he was just
position.
saying, let my backup get here to pat you boys down.
Right, and then when the backup came, he put his gun away.
Yes.
So, and then
when they didn't have a weapon.
Him down. Right.
But of course, then they found the BB gun in between where he stopped them and the convenience store that looked like a real weapon. He even said this looks like more of a real gun than my gun looks like a real gun.
And it did. It looked. I mean, you wouldn't know just from seeing that was a BB gun.
And
there's no possible way.
He de-escalated it because, of course, you have people shooting video, screaming, "Those are children! Leave them alone! What are you doing?"
The community went crazy.
Not even knowing, what's going on. All they see is there's a gun outside, and he's talking to boys.
Right. And he's like, "Don't worry about them. Don't worry about them. This is us. This is us right here."
He kept them calm.
Yep.
He stayed calm.
Yep.
But the whole area is still just blowing up. They're still having meetings about how that police officer was in the wrong, should never have had a gun held on their babies. They didn't do anything wrong. How dare them? It's going so far as to, you want to police our community? We're going to tell you how we want you to police us.
Oh, that's right. We have a clip of her saying that. Watch this.
Just having black leadership is not enough for us. We don't care if the officer was black. We haven't been protesting against white racist cops. We've been protesting against the Blue Shields and the fact that they believe that we don't have rights as people of color, whether it's stop and frisk in New York, up against the wall in Chicago, or assume the position in Oakland. Enough is enough. We're not going to take it. And now we're holding Clayton County, the Board of Commissions, we're holding Chief Kevin Roberts accountable for this. And we're saying we would like to see revisions, and not just your revisions. We want you to give the community an opportunity to say, this is how we want you to police us.
Is that how it works? So basically, you tell them how you want them to police. I wasn't sure. I wasn't aware that was an option.
I thought the Constitution and our state laws and our bylaws for different counties, different areas, I thought that was how you policed people. I thought that's what the legislative branch of our government was for, was to make laws and how do we uphold these laws and what are the repercussions for breaking these laws.
Mm-hmm.
We have a whole branch of the country that decides this, not the PTA. They're
Right.
not part of the legislative
Right.
branch.
Right. But even T.I. came out. T.I. came out and he was, supporting the family too. And I'm not. Let's just put it this way. He said something really, really racist. Watch this.
The police always got their own narrative. That ain't nothing new. I'm not here to beg nor plead with you or the police because I know that this is intentional. You dig what I'm saying? I'm here in solidarity and in support of this young gentleman and this young family and this community. And it's very simple, okay? If the police got such a narrative and has such influence from this 911 call, why don't we ever see little white kids being held at gunpoint? Okay? Period. The Constitution was written for all Americans, okay? Except it only seems like you have to be a certain shade or a certain color to reap the benefits of it. Why are only people of color, young black boys, young black girls being gunned down at the hands of policemen and using excuses like BB guns, water guns? There are little white boys that got real rifles that go hunting every day, every week with their grandparents and parents. They aren't being held at gunpoint. So that's what we here for. Let's not mix words and pretend like we don't understand what we dealing with right here. All right?
And he thinks that if these were white boys, that wouldn't have happened. It doesn't have anything to, again, it doesn't have anything to do with color. If a cop gets a call of armed teenagers, white, black, green, doesn't matter what color they are, if he thinks they're armed, he's going to approach them with his weapon drawn. Period. End of story. That's procedure.
Yeah, so that's same age as Daniel, my son, right?
Yeah.
13, 14, right on the border. That's his age group. He's the size of some adult men.
Mm-hmm.
So their age may be children. Their size is the size of men.
Right.
If that was my son and he had a weapon or something that was perceived as a weapon, he's not 7. He knows the consequences of his actions. And that cop did a great job, like I said, of de-escalating, of talking to them and saying, do you know what could have happened to you with this tucked in your back? Do you know what could have happened? And that's it. He said, you want to call your parents? Call your parents. None of them chose to call their parents. Wasn't their parents' fault. They didn't know about it till the next day when someone else said something. That's their child's fault for not saying something when they got home.
Yeah.
I don't understand how, once again, another officer is completely in the wrong.
Oh, in the press conference, they were calling for his head.
I know.
They were like, we want him fired. We want him gone.
That officer got to go. Not just for his actions, but if you watch the tape, he is scared as I don't know what. He's jittery. This is an isolated incident, Sister Mary Pat, but it fits hand in glove into the narrative nationally going on right now. Policing our communities and how you do so. Brother Tip said it eloquently. You put the same 2 groups of youngsters and make them white, and we do not have this problem. Or if you take an officer who's not jittery, who I believe said that he was waiting on backup to secure the scene. You got 5 youngsters. It ain't wintertime. They ain't in bombers and puffy pants. Lay each one of them down. Have the one walk over to you, check them, and clear them. Come on, man. What are we talking about? The extra time that these youngsters were facing the barrel of the gun on top of what's happening in this climate, and be quite honest with you, on top of what we born with in our DNA. You are going to police our communities the same, or you will suffer the consequences. That's what's happening right now across this nation. Fire that officer And shame on this chief for even acting as if he is in cahoots. But that's the problem, the culture, and he represents the chief of that culture.
And thankfully, his captain, his chief, said no.
Oh,
A plus. A
A+.
plus. He's going to stand behind him, and I think that is fantastic.
Yep, we got a clip of him saying A+. Watch this.
Appreciate your 11 Alive. Viewers responding to our story online have asked if the officer could have used a taser or pointed his gun down when he approached the teens. Was that an option in this case?
If they actually watched our body camera footage, you would notice that upon initial contact, his weapon was pointed at the juveniles. After they began to comply, he lowered his weapon to the low ready position and it was no longer pointed at the teens. And we have to talk about reasonableness as it comes to use of force. I was asked yesterday on the steps about using a taser to engage someone with a possible firearm. That's not a fair request. That's not a fair request at all. Not saying that we know these young men weren't armed, but he did not know. And to ask someone to use a taser when there's a possible firearm present puts you in a losing position already.
Chief Robin Kemp at the Clayton Present.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you mind explaining to people what the proper method of presentation of a weapon is when you encounter a suspect that may be armed?
He demonstrated it on that video. If you have reason to believe that the person you're engaging in a high-risk situation is armed, my weapon is either going to be on that subject or at the low ready, which this officer reduced to once he gained compliance from the teenagers.
Chief Charles with 11 Alive.
Yes, sir.
What grade would you give this officer on de-escalating that situation?
A+.
Why is that?
For all the reasons I just said. His presentation, his interaction with the young men involved, he blotted out everything around him. He gave clear directions. He encouraged them to blot out the crowd noise. And then at the end, when there was a determination that no weapon was found, they moved on through this investigation, and it appears that there's a teaching moment going on. It appears that this officer is speaking with these young men not in a way to demean them, disrespect them, but to educate them on the dangers of handling weapons or things that appear like real weapons.
And he's absolutely right, because his demeanor, his tone, his mentorship, he shouldn't be fired. He should get a medal. I mean, he did everything he was supposed to do with these children. Everything that he was supposed to do. And it all came out for the better. And it gave these kids a teaching moment. But instead, T.I. wants to come over and, try to stir up, well, I'm not sure that T.I. did it, but anyway, all of them together were trying to stir it up like it was a racial thing. White boys aren't going to be stopped by the cops. Why don't we ever see white boys? And why don't we ever see this? And why don't, when T.I.'s like, oh, well, what I told him was there's a power inside of him that the white man is going to take away, that's going to try to take away before it gets full grown. Watch this.
This is the world that we live in right now.
Well, I've explained to him when I talked to him that the reason why he's going through this because there's a power that he possesses that hateful white people seem to be afraid of. And they're going to try to destroy that power before it becomes full grown. And I let him know that. And I let him know that he should not allow them to trap him within fear. Because this power that he has, that we all have, is God-given.
Really? First of all, the cop's black.
Yes.
And really, T.I., really? Is that the message you're sending to the youngsters? T.I., Clifford Harris, who was slinging dope over on Bankhead and then got a record deal, made millions of dollars, and then turned his record career into a real estate empire, and now he's a real estate entrepreneur. You're going to tell a 13-year-old child that he couldn't do the same thing that you did? What kind of message is that? You're going to tell him that Whitey's in the way? What?
wrong message. The message should be the same thing I tell my children. Nothing can stop you from achieving your dreams except yourself.
Exactly. Exactly. What was he thinking?
I don't know. Like I said, everything has gone crazy times 100.
That's so racist. That was so racist that he said that. So racist. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it all. I hate all this stuff.
I know.
We got to come together. Our cities and our country are being torn apart. We have got to come together. And where are the people in Washington? Where are all of our fighters in Washington? Ted Cruz and Jeffries and Jordan and and Donald Trump. Where are we? Where is everybody?
I don't know. They've just been in hiding
They're
for the past
they're
2
just
weeks.
twiddling their thumbs.
3 weeks.
All of this is happening in all the major cities, and they're just sitting in Washington twiddling their thumbs.
Yep.
The left is getting every single thing that they want, and the Republicans are in charge. What is going on? It's so upside down. I can't even. I can't even put it into words.
I don't understand any of it.
We need leadership.
Yes.
We need somebody to come out and take control of this situation. Not only in Atlanta, and yes, Atlanta is very, very close to my heart. I was born here. This is my home.
Yes.
So when I see it being torn apart, and I see successful people like T.I. telling people that they can't be successful like he is because the white man's in the way, well, I just get so upset about that because that is so not true. There are so many black entrepreneurs in this town that came from good backgrounds, that came from some poor backgrounds, and they all made it. They all made it. The only thing, like you said, the only thing that keeps you back is you. Mm-hmm. All this systematic racism and all this, what else do they call it? White privilege and all that. All that's in your head, man. That's all right here. That's not real. I'm 50 years old. I've never had any white privilege in my life. Are you kidding me?
So, what were we listening to the other day? And they were talking about white privilege. That if you call it white privilege and you want to take it away, then what does it become? And somebody said, well, then it becomes black privilege. And he said, well, that's where you're wrong. So that's why there is no such thing as white privilege. That it has to be
equality.
It has to be equality. You can't have one person higher than the other. You can't turn it around and say it's South American countries are going to be supremacists, and then there's white people, and every 10 years it's going to change. You can't have that.
No.
You can't have any kind of supremacy. You can't be better than. Everybody has to be on a level playing field. And I don't know, maybe I'm stupid, maybe I misread the country, but for a long time I thought that's where we were. I
wish that's where we were, but right now that's not where we were.
No, right now it's so is not
where we are.
No.
And like I said, we need help. We need leadership. We're not getting leadership out of our cities because I'm just going to come out and say it. They're all run by Democrats. All the cities are run by Democrats. And the Democrats want the upheaval. They want it.
And it's a voting year.
They want us to stay divided.
And it's a voting year. They want serious division. They want serious division.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And without leadership, the country's just going to fall apart.
Yes.
So somebody needs to come out and take control of this situation. There's a 6-block place in Seattle that's they've declared their own country. What?
Oh, but get this, it's all supposed to be so peaceful, but it's completely armed with armed guards around the outside.
Oh, did you see the video of the one guy? He took the AR-15 out of his trunk and gave it to like a 15-year-old kid to go guard the barrier.
Mm-hmm.
What?
So I'm telling you, if someone decided they're going to come into where I live and take over for their own safety, smell kittens and rainbows area that they feel safe in or whatever it is supposed to be, but they're taking over my area and they're going to guard it with guns, but I have to go through that area to go to work, to go shopping, to get to my home. Oh no. Hell no.
Right, and they're calling it an autonomous zone, so that means, everything is free.
Yes.
But there are businesses in that area.
Yes.
Businesses are in business to make money.
Yes.
So you've got thousands of people in that area that are not patronizing the businesses that are there. And the people who usually patronize the business that aren't in that zone aren't coming into that zone because they're not crazy. Mm-hmm. So those businesses are suffering.
And they were already suffering to begin with from
the economic policies of Seattle.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. It's completely crazy. I don't understand a lot. Like mentally. Like I understand it, but mentally I don't understand where people are coming from. How can you think to that severity? And also how do people really believe media one way or another when it is that far to the left, that far to the right? How do you believe any of it? Do people not realize it's just like in anything, there's a he said, she said, and then there's truth, which is somewhere in the middle? That is the same thing. We cannot believe everything. We are just force-fed like a horse with a bag that we are shown. We can't believe it all.
Can't believe it all.
No.
Look, you guys, we're not going to run forever on this, but go watch the video about the cop in Clayton County and let us know what you think about it in the comments below. Also, do you think that Rayshard Brooks was a justified shoot or an unjustified shoot? And if it was an unjustified shoot, tell us why. And obviously we've been arguing that it's a justified shoot, so we know why it's a justified shoot. But definitely put it in the comments because I am so confused of why this is even a question. So please comment and let us know why.
Yes, please.
So anything else you got to say?
I don't think so.
Because seriously, we could go for
the next
10 more
hours.
minutes, 10 more minutes or 6 more hours. Absolutely. So thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time.
Have a good one.